Hello everyone, welcome back for my 4th week in the Malamar Games. For those who aren't aware, this is a special league where VGC content creators face off in a best of 3 set, but there's a random set of wacky restrictions in place. This week I'm up against Audi, also known as CK49, who you may know from his video podcast Tub Takes. He's a much bigger content creator than me who consistently day 2s or top cuts events, and I'll link his channel in the description below, but just to give you an idea of the caliber of player here. The format that we're playing is slow Pokemon only, so we're limited to only Pokemon with a base speed of 60 or lower. It's also Series 1, so we can't use any of those crazy Paradox or Ruin Mons that fit that description, like Tinglu or Iron Hands would be pretty crazy here. I'm actually pretty proud of my team, so I'm going to take some time to go through some of my building decisions, but there is a timestamp in the description and the seek bar to skip ahead to the set if that's what you'd like to do. Anyway, so the thing about a slow format is that it means you have to readjust all your old ideas about speed tiers. If everything is slow, then things that you think of as slow might now be fast. And that's exactly my thought process with Torkoal here. If I go max speed modest with a choice scarf, we outspeed like almost anything except for like the absolute fastest things in the tier with max investment. And of course, since we're modest and we still have the sun, Eruption is going to do an absolute truckload of damage here. And we have Terra Fire on top of that to boost the damage even further. Similarly, max speed Amoonguss can absolutely wreak havoc, just setting spores on everything. And I'm running a mental herb since I fully expect a player like Audi to be prepared for Amoonguss in this format, where it's just one of the best slow mons in Series 1 by far. So hopefully we can get a surprise spore around a taunt or something like that. So now on that note, I also wanted to make sure I was prepped for Amoonguss myself, opposing Amoonguss. So my Kingambit is Terra Grass. In the spirit of Malamar shenanigans, we are running exactly 1 point slower than our Turbo Shroom and a weakness policy. So what we can do is Terra and then immediately proc our policy with a Clear Smog. You'll notice Amoonguss is also min special attack, and that is to minimize the damage that we do to ourselves with that, and hopefully heal it back with Pollen Puff. So yeah, the hope is that we can get some big +2 Kowtow Cleaves and Iron Heads off of Kingambit's just massive base 130 something attack. It's really good. The rest of the team is kind of less creative, but just really solid for this format. Garganacl and Arboliva are both immune to Spore, so that's big for the Amoonguss problem, and they both benefit heavily from the screens on Grimmsnarl. Hariyama with Guts Close Combat is a really big concern for my team, so we're going with Terra Ghost on Garg to potentially deal with that. Arboliva is a Throat Spray Hyper Voice set, so we get +1 with that, and then we just keep blasting Stab Hyper Voice at +1, really good. And on top of that, we have Giga Drain and Strength Zap, and its Seed Sower ability for recovery. So between screens and the extra powerful Giga Drains, hoping to just keep myself alive for a long time while doing really good damage. Anyway, that is the team, so let's dive into the set and see how we do against an awesome player like Audi. Going into this, he is undefeated at 3-0, while I am at 2-1, so I'm really hoping to hold my own and tie the current leaders in the league. Okay, Audi's got a colossal team, which is pretty scary. Looks like I started recording after locking in my 4 here, so you can see I'm going with an Amoonguss Torkoal lead to redirect a potential Azumarill Aquajet proc into that colossal, and then smack it with a 4x super effective Earth Power. In the back, I've got my 2 bulky mons, Arboliva and Garganacl, and that's just to try to close out an endgame after my lead hopefully does some solid damage. He also has that Amoonguss, so I'm really glad we went with so many immunities on this team. Yeah, Hariyama's also on there, really big problems, so yeah, glad we at least have the Ghost Terra on Garganacl if it comes to that, but it does mean that I have to be really careful about using my Terra if he has that in the back, or even as a lead. It's a pretty solid lead since you can just fake out and then have your Flame Orb proc the following, at the end of the turn. Right, let's see what kind of lead we're dealing with here. Yeah, right, so he leads with Azumarill Colossal first, so I'm glad I led taking that into account. It's still not a guaranteed win by any means, though. I think I'm pretty sure that I go with a Terra Water here, and that's to account for a big fire move from Colossal. And then the question, though, is whether I want to get greedy. The Rage Powder redirect is kind of obvious, right? So If I go Terra Water and Spore, that could be really big here. Or I could just go for the Rage Powder. And I think I do go with the safer play here with Terra Water, Rage Powder, and then Earth Power into the Colossal. Because I have that Scarf on Torkoal, I should definitely go before either of them. But yeah, the only problem with this, though, is that I do give him the Sun, so I've actually boosted his own fire moves. But we resist fire, so not the end of the world. So my Terra goes off, and then his goes afterwards. So this is kind of big, and it's kind of bad for me in this closed sheet, closed information kind of game, in that I've now revealed that my Amoonguss is at the very least faster than his Colossal is prior to a Steam Engine proc. Now with that said, that doesn't necessarily mean much. I mean, I just have investment rather than a Scarf, or just have some investment rather than max investment like I do. But yeah, here goes the Aqua Jet, so I guess it's really good that I didn't go for the unsafe play. And we get the Earth Power off. The thing is, I'm now going to proc him. So in retrospect, the Spore might have been a better play. He would have gotten the attack off, but then I put him to sleep, and that would be really big. And then the Heat Wave goes off, yeah. So, yeah, both my mons resisted, but we barely take it, because +2 and in Sun and Terra Fire, that is a lot of multipliers to counteract, but not very effective. So now we're in trouble. I really should have gone for that Spore. I basically just need to take... I need to make a play here, right? I decided to go for the Earth Power into Cole, or I decided that the Earth Power into Cole is too obvious, rather, right? Because the special defense drop means that I will get a 2-hit KO, even though it not doing half means that I have to be really careful, because even the 4X won't give me the Oko in future games. But yeah, I decided to go for the damage into Azumarill because the Protect on Cole seems really obvious, and then I swapped Torkoal out for Gargantual to avoid a potential Aqua Jet into that slot. In the Sun, even though Aqua Jet is super effective, Garg should take that easily. And I do call the Protect on Cole, so that's really good. That's a nice bit of game sense, but what I don't think of is the Sap Sipper on Azumarill, so that's really big. And he goes for Sing and hits the raw Sing. So this, it wasn't a bad read on my part, but I'm in an even worse position now. And because I'm so far behind, I kind of just need to make a play here, right? He doesn't know my set on Garg, so I can go for a... He might think that I'm going for Protect. I kind of just need to go for this attack, even though a +2 Earth Power would probably Oko me here. I'm so far behind that I need to get this Gargantual off the field. So we go for the Salt Cure, and we kind of pray. Now, Audi withdraws the Azumarill for Amoonguss. Okay, yeah, so honestly, I'll take that. It means no Steam Engine proc, although I would honestly rather just let him have the speed and also chip him. Anyway, Salt Cure goes in. This is super effective, but it's not going to do a ton of damage. Cole's pretty bulky, and Salt Cure never does much damage anyway by itself. But we will start getting the damage now. And he just goes for Power Gem into Amoonguss. I think that was reading a potential Protect onto Garg, so I really needed to make that read. We're still very much behind, but it's doable, and I'm okay with Amoonguss going down. We just barely managed to burn a sleep turn. So now we bring up the Torkoal, right, because we know that it's faster than Cole. We also learned that Garg is faster than Cole, which is interesting, but because it could be redirected, we can't depend on it. And I'm just going for the Earth Power. It doesn't necessarily know that I don't have Heat Wave. So, yeah, we're predicting a Protect on the Amoonguss to avoid a Fire attack, and then hopefully just getting this Cole off the board finally with an Earth Power. And Amoonguss does go for the Protect. That's really big. So, yeah, we know Torkoal outspeeds here, especially with the Scarf, so that is a dead Colossal. I could have gone, if I was really predicting that Protect on Amoonguss, I could have hard called it and gone for an Iron Defense on Garg. But the thing about that is that I know he has an Azumarill in the back. and which is fairy, and Amoonguss is poison, so it really wouldn't be impacting my body presses all that much. Like, those mons will probably take more damage from Salt Cure residual anyway, so it's not a huge deal to have whiffed that Salt Cure into the Protect. So here I know Torkoal is really vulnerable to an Aqua Jet, but it also seems like a very obvious play. I decide that because I have Arboliva in the back, I can just let Torkoal do some damage, go down for free, and then go down and get me the free switch into Arboliva, at which point I can just start spamming Hyper Voice plus Salt Cure. And Adi does go for the Aqua Jet. And, you know, really, I should have just done the swap, because Arboliva is immune to Spore and really not threatened by that Azumarill. I know it saps Zipper over huge power, so it can't really do much damage, and we resist any water moves, and the Sun's up, right? Luckily, the Spore at least does go harmlessly into Purifying Salt, so we're still not in a terrible position, at least given the information I have. Okay, so here, yeah, we're just kind of clicking attacks. Hyper Voice plus Salt Cure. Neither of these mons really puts on a ton of pressure. And then the Amoonguss goes out and is replaced by Hariyama. So this is also really scary because that thing is threatened super effective damage into both my mons, but even more scary than that is the Perish Song. And really, I should have seen this coming because Gothorita was on the team list, right? You couldn't do Gothitelle because it's too fast for this format. But yeah, I really should have seen the Perish on Azumarill coming, especially because it's Sap Zipper, right? And had I known that, I really should have inferred it again, but had I known that, I would have swapped Torkoal out because that would give me the 3-mon advantage and at least not instantly lose to Perish Song. But at this point, I have 100% lost. So other thing to note here, I just put a Salt Cure into the Azumarill, and it is not taking any chip damage. The game's over, so I'm just going to talk about this real quick. That means that it has to be holding Covert Cloak, which is really huge information for a player like me who has Salt Cure Garganical and who has Fake Out Grimmsnarl. I'll just say right now, while I was playing the set, I was just too surprised by having it lost on tech that I didn't see coming, and didn't take note of it. I didn't see the Salt Cure not proc, and so I had no idea about the Covert Cloak, and that is a really big skill. It's one of my skills that's kind of deteriorated in this age of only playing open sheet, since that's the official VGC format right now, that you really need to be constantly paying attention to all the messaging on the screen during these games, because information can be revealed at any time. You need to be paying attention, and especially if you get used to playing on Showdown. You know, on Showdown you can go back and see logs and see like, oh, did XYZ happen last turn? But when you're playing on cart in the real game, once the information's gone, it's gone. You need to have just paid attention there. So we get some Salt Cure damage down. At the very least, I can kind of try to infer how much damage Hyper Voice would do. It's a relatively important calc if I'm going to keep running it, especially since Hariyama threatens almost certainly an Oko into Arboliva. But as I go for this, he goes for double protect here. So that's absolutely the right play. It guarantees that he wins this game, if it wasn't already guaranteed, honestly, because the Amoonguss has already shown to protect itself. But that's good information for me to have now, is that I know that Hariyama has both Fake Out and Protect. That's quite unusual, but on a Perish team, it definitely makes sense. There's a lot of random stuff to go through the end of the turn between Salt Cure, Grassy Terrain, and Burn. Anyway, I think at this point I just get frustrated and click the forfeit button. I really should have stuck around just to click Hyper Voice, or even see the speed tiers too, right? It would be interesting to know whether that Hariyama outspeeds Arboliva and Garg. But yep, I go ahead and click the forfeit button there. So good first game to Adi. Let's go ahead and skip straight to the team preview of Game 2. Okay, so in game 2, I decide that I want to try my weakness policy King Gambit strategy. If he leads Cole Azu again, I'm in a bit of a rough spot since that involves tearing the grass and I'm steel, so a reason for him not to go for a fire move. But I do still threaten that Rage Powder, right? So I can, that's a risk I just need to take since Cole has coverage for basically my whole team anyway. I could also protect King Gambit and Terra Water the Amogus and go for a Spore and abandon the weakness policy strategy. One or the other. Anyway, yeah, Cole is just a real menace to my team, and I should have taken it better into account when building. In the back, we take Torkoal and Garg. They're just a great cleanup crew. Garg is borderline impossible for him to break if I keep my Terra intact against Hariyama. And Scarf Torkoal just does crazy damage into a lot of this team, too. Okay, let's see what Audi leads with here, and it's Azumarill Grimmsnarl. So this is very interesting. On a Perish team, you have to assume that the Grimmsnarl has Fake Out, right? But the thing is that I also know that Azu is a Perish set, so double protecting, I can't even protect on Amoongus, but protecting seems kind of pointless because I might just let him have Perish for free, right? So instead I just decide I'm going to pull the trigger, I'm going to do my Terra Grass, and side clear Smog, and hopefully either there is no Fake Out or he fakes out the King Gambit and I still get the proc out. But yeah, we're going to see. You see a lot of Goggles King Gambit, but rarely Terra Grass in the real format, but that's why we hope this is surprising. And they do go for the Fake Out in the King Gambit, so fantastic there. And we get that side clear Smog, which still does more than I'd like it to do considering it's a Moongus and a side move, but I guess it's still stab. Anyway, there's our procs, that's awesome. Hopefully it's a bit of a surprise to my opponent here. King Gambit flinches, and Azu goes for Sing, so that is, it misses this time, thank God. But we do know that we're faster than Azu with King Gambit as well, so that's nice. Only 1 point slower than Amoongus, so that makes sense. Here I decided to protect King Gambit and go for a Spore into the Grimmsnarl, idea being that I don't want to get Sang, basically. This is risky though, because if he goes for that Perish, then I gave up a turn I could have been doing damage. But he goes for Protect on the Grimmsnarl. So again, kind of makes sense to have Fake Out plus Protect on a Perish team, but I didn't expect it because that's not normal. The other bit of information we get here is that Grimmsnarl's Protect goes off before King Gambit's. So what that means is because my King is only 1 point slower than my Amoongus, that Grimmsnarl is probably the fastest thing on the field right now. Luckily, at least they did go for Sing into King Gambit, so we read that much at least, and so we are, like, yeah, we're more or less even now. So I decided to go for the Iron Head into Azumarill and the Spore into Grimmsnarl. Iron Head into Grimm seems really obvious because of the super effective play, and honestly, I'm far more scared of the Azumarill than I am of the Grimmsnarl. It can't really attack King Gambit for fear of because it probably has Spirit Break, and it does not want to give us that +2 Defiant boost, right? So Grimmsnarl really doesn't do much to us. Even if it has Taunt, we have the Mental Herb on Amoongus, so that means nothing. You notice Audi takes his time a lot on these turns. This is a skill that I really need to get better at, is taking the full time on your turn to make your decisions, especially on something as finicky as a Perish strat. Now he swaps out Azumarill into Gothorita, so what that means is that I'm going to get that +2 Iron Head into Gothorita instead. And then he goes for Parting Shot into the Amoongus. This is really smart, because now, I'm sure you can see what's coming here, Azumarill can go into that slot, eat up my Spore for free, and get a Sap Sipper boost while they're at it. So even though it doesn't have great attack investment, it's going to have that boost now. But more importantly, it's just immune, right? It's still not a terrible turn for us, though, just because we're going to get this free damage into Gothorita, and +2 is really strong on King Gambit. But that Eviolite Bolt lets it take it way better than I thought it would. So now yeah, it's looking like I just go for a very quick Iron Head into the Azumarill. It just seems like Goth, that being a 2-hit KO on Goth, would make it a very obvious protect. It could also just fake us out, potentially. But, you know, into Perish Trap, and we are trapped here, there's really no point in protecting. You need to just get your damage down if they don't, because they most likely don't threaten you with any real damage, just the Perish Song. Now, granted, Sing is very scary, right? So if Audio wants to keep rolling that die and clicking Fake Out and Sing, then that's a problem for me, but... And he does just go for the Protect on Goth, so makes a lot of sense. And goes for Aqua Jet. That's really weird, and given how much time passed there, I mean, he takes a lot of time on most turns, but I have to think that was either a misclick or a timeout. That doesn't make any sense. Sing or a Perish Song would be really big there, and we get massive damage off with that +2 Iron Head, so yeah, this weakness policy strat really worked out. So Goth is now just protected. There's no reason for us not to just put another Iron Head into that slot. We can click Rage Powder here to redirect a potential Sing. If he clicks Perish Song as we kill Goth, I'm just fine with that, because the worst case scenario is we have to forfeit the weakness policy boosts, and we get to keep all of them. Yeah, so Goth goes down, we've taken our first KO. And the Azumarill is really low, we're in a great position in this game. It does go for the Sing, so it connects this time. It's kind of hitting 50-50. The accuracy is 55%, so it's a very risky move, but... Alright, now here's the Hariyama, and this is scary, right, because it now threatens the Fake Out, and you can just click Fake Out plus Sing into King Gambit. Not a big fan of that, so I go for the Protect there, and I decide I'm just going to burn a sleep turn. I don't know why I'm taking the time to decide, like, to choose a move there. Amoonguss hasn't taken its first sleep turn yet, so... Now, yeah, this is also a really smart move. Adi is not too good of a player to go for just the Fake Out Sing, because it's very low success. Instead, what you can do is Fake Out, then switch into Grimmsnarl, and now you threaten yet another Fake Out, which I can't protect around. So Fake Out plus CC is a really strong option here, and it's just a pin. I don't really have anything into it. So what I decided to do here is just give up my boosts, right? It sucks, but King Gambit is still a very powerful Pokemon. It still puts a lot of pressure on. So what I can do here is swap it out into the Torkoal, although you'll see during the game I was very much trying to think of another option, but Garganical absolutely can't stand up to Hariyama. So what we can do is swap in the Torkoal, take a hit, it'll still hurt, but we have that great physical defense, and then we haven't given up that it's Scarf Torkoal yet, right? So the hope is that we'll do really big damage into the Hariyama, which generally does not have great special defense. And he goes for CC. That's great because it's going to drop his special defense by a stage, right? So now we have a Flamethrower in the sun into a -1 Hariyama. That should do really big damage. Thing to note, he read my switch there and went for the Fake Out into Amoonguss, who woke up that turn, so it was absolutely big. And yeah, either he was confident that Hariyama would be faster, or he was just taking that gamble, because an Iron Head into Grimmsnarl would have probably won me the game right there. But yeah, we're just going to use the Scarf Flamethrower. The expectation is that he has no reason to believe we're Scarfed, so this also no reason to protect. Especially because that burn from the Flame Orb means that the Hariyama is immune to Swarm. But yeah, there goes the Flamethrower. Massive damage. It's unfortunate we just barely missed the KO. He puts a Headlong Rush into Amoonguss, so we can get that HP back by Regenerator swapping, and the burn will take him out from this point. We go for the Spore into the Grimmsnarl, and that reveals the safety goggles. So yeah, that is a big bit of information to time him out. And we live the Spirit Break on 1 HP, but it was a crit, so I do not feel bad about that one. So now we're in the 4v2 scenario. Really good. We still have to worry about the potential Perish Trap, right? Because it is a Azumarill in the back. Although, because it's 4v2, Perish Trap would be very difficult to get off here, right? Especially given how low HP Azumarill is. But we don't want to flub it here. And you have to kind of make a judgment call, right? Because Amoonguss wants to swap to trigger its Regenerator, but Torkoal wants to swap to not get hit by Aqua Jet. But Torkoal's already at -1. I've given up the Scarf Tech already, and like, yeah, I decide that I'm just going to. I'd rather keep Amoonguss healthy and pivot around my 3 remaining mons. who are all quite bulky. Yeah, so I swapped that out for Garg, who absolutely hardwalls everything here, and we're going to try to get one last flamethrower off. We're at -1, but in the sun, modest max investment, it should still do some pretty solid damage in the Grimmsnarl. Get the flamethrower off, then the spirit break goes into Torkoal, and it goes down, so that is perfectly fine. Now we're going to be able to have two big physical attackers and King Gambit here. Sing goes into Garg, who is immune to it, so that's also a really good switch into that reason. I consider Amoonguss here, but we just need the pressure. King Gambit should also be faster than Azumarill here, so nothing to stop us from just clicking that big Iron Head into Grimmsnarl and having the 3v1. But the battles gets. And you can see there at the end I do click Salt Cure into Azumarill, which means at the time I was still not aware of the Covert Cloak on it, despite the fact that I should have been tipped off by that point. So we're into game 3. Let's go ahead and skip ahead. Okay, so here. I've shown off pretty much all the tech on my team. So at this point I decide that I want to go with something more consistent, right? What I decide I can do is ultimately I go with a Grimmsnarl plus Arboliva lead. The idea being, A, I haven't shown my Grimmsnarl yet, so that set should be at least a bit of a surprise. You never know what Grimmsnarl's carrying, and you generally have to be careful of that. But also, I can just go for screens plus big damage plus recovery. That'll be really nice. I do still have to worry about the Colossal. The fact that Audi won with Cole game 1 means I might go back to it. But the hope is that I can fake out and then have Light Screen plus Natural Bulk plus like potentially a +1 Giga Drain that would be neutral into Cole if it doesn't Terra. So yeah, the idea is that we can hopefully get around that. Yeah, and then we go ahead and throw Garg and Torkoal in the back because they are a great cleanup crew and they can also swap into a lot of stuff here. Okay, let's see what this game 3 lead is. Gothorita and the Azumarill. So Audie's going with the Hard Perish right off the bat. And yeah, now you can see my lack of attentiveness is really going to bite me because I go for that fake out onto Azumarill, not realizing the Covert Cloak. Had I known that, I would have either faked out the Gothorita or gone for one of my screens. But otherwise on the Arboliva, there's not a whole lot to think about. Really just deciding whether I want to Terra for the even bigger Hyper Voice. Yeah, we'll just go with the basic play here. Yeah, I bet Audie was very happy with that turn, and he taunts. So this is really rough, right? Because had I faked out Goth or gone for a screen, I would have at least gotten one up, and now Perish Song goes up, right? So my 2 mons are basically not long for this world unless I can get Goth off the field. The good news is that Hyper Voice at least does go off, right? I was scared of a Goth to fake out in that slot, so now we can at least just be really blasting with these +1 Hyper Voices. If I'm going to go down in 3 turns, I need to do as much damage as physically possible before that point. So yeah, Protect on Goth seems really obvious, considering it is the thing that's trapping me in. So I decide to put the Spirit Break into the Azumarill slot, and then there's not much thinking on Hyper Voice. We just click it. This is really big. This is potentially the most pivotal turn in the full set. Audie withdraws the Azumarill for Hariyama. Now that was probably for a fake out to keep the Perish trap going, but Spirit Break is going to do massive damage because despite Grimmsnarl being a support, it has a very high base special attack, and that's super effective. So Hariyama's taken to under half, and now its bad special defense has to deal with a +1 Hyper Voice from the fairly powerful Arboliva. Wow, just blanked on the name of my own Pokemon. So yeah, we get that free KO there, and that's absolutely huge. Without it, we probably just lose to this Perish Trap. And now Amoonguss comes out, but you know, Arboliva is immune to the Spore, and what it's probably here for is redirection, right? Because a Spirit Fake plus a +1 Hyper Voice just takes out Gothorita here. But if you redirect, then Goth can live another turn. And yeah, there's the Rage Powder. So it makes a lot of sense, but I didn't have any other options here, right? Because I'm trapped and Grimmsnarl is taunted, so you really just got to keep attacking. And he goes for the Heal Pulse into Amoonguss. Now, this was potentially thinking that he was slower, but we should know the speed tier by then. So, yeah, because Arboliva is slower than Gothorita, we still get the big damage into the Amoonguss. A Terra might have been nice there, but I didn't want to burn it on something that was most likely dying. Yeah, so that's the final turn. We're trapped in, we can't switch. They die at the end of the turn, so again, not much to think about here. We kind of just go for these attacks. It's the impetus is on the Perish player to survive whatever onslaught I can put up. You can really see taking the time to think about your moves is very important. Now, Protected Goth, it means he's sacking it because Goth is part of the Perish Song too. But here's the really important thing. There was no Protect on the Amoonguss. And as I was saying that it's important to take your time, it's also important not to time out. And I have to assume it's a timeout if you don't Protect on the Amoonguss. Yeah, look at, we almost take it out. Now, it does have Citrus Berry, so it's not over yet, but yeah, that's also a pretty pivotal potential misclick or timeout. I would assume, right? Because Pollen Puff and Grim really serves no purpose since both these Pokemon are dying this turn anyway. Yeah, unfortunate. Kind of mistake. Probably wouldn't happen in an IRL tournament, but you know, we're playing for fun here too. But both my Pokemon do go down here, so we are in a 2v2 situation. It's going to be my Torkoal and my Garganacl against Audie's Amoonguss and Azumarill. But given the chip on both of his Pokemon, this should be really nice. I'm very happy about my position going into this, but we still have to be careful because both of these moms are slower than mine, so there is the potential to lose from Perish. That said, we are still in a very strong position because of our speed control. The same thing that lets him win with Perish makes it very difficult for him to stay alive. I go for Eruption plus Salt Cure. I do know that the Azumarill is Covert Cloak at this point, but my assumption is that Eruption will kill Amoonguss from this range anyway. Now, with that said, neither of us have burned our Terra yet, and that's something I should have taken into account. This is closed team sheet, but open Terra, so I do know that Amoonguss is Terra Water, which means that terastallizing it to resist the Eruption, because I don't have a boosting item, instead I have that Scarf, it may live, which could completely ruin the game for me. If he puts Torkoal to sleep, I actually probably do lose here. But lucky for me, he does go for the Protect, because doubling the Amoonguss does seem pretty obvious, right? Going for the Terra Water would probably, would maybe let him live the Eruption, but probably not the Salt Cure double up. This ends up being a nice little bit of greed on my part, but in retrospect, going for the double into Amoonguss would have been smart. I can also go for the Terra to increase my own power, which I should have done on that last turn, but we get away with it, which is nice. Had I done that, then that double into Azumarill also probably would have killed. Yeah, now we're not taking any more chances, and we go for the Terastallization. So Terra, Fire, Eruption, max HP. This should be pretty good, right? Now the thing is, if he did, by the grace of God, manage to live with Amoonguss, then a double Protect would win the game. which that would be unfortunate, but also an amazing play to your outs. So, and yeah, here comes that Terra Water. Yeah, the Eruption all up to Scarf Torkoal here. And we take it, so that closes out the set. Yeah, so really great games, great set. This was probably my favorite so far of the Malamar games, to be honest, although I'm a little biased, of course. That puts me in a 3-1 record going into week 5, where I will be playing Kevin from Pokesports. So yeah, definitely look forward to that. Kevin's a really cool guy. Love anytime I get to play a set against him. Yeah, so look forward to that, and until next time.